Magnolia State Family Medicine, Health Center and Medical Spa, 1009B City Avenue North, Ripley, 587-8176. Call for your appointment. Providing modern medicine with Southern hospitality. That's Magnolia State Family Medicine, 100% veteran-owned and operated. Bethel University Physician Assistant Program affiliated. Magnolia State Family Medicine. Dr. Christopher J. M. Cummins, Medical Doctor. Fast, hot, and fresh. Open 24 hours just for you. Dodge's Store. Come be our guest. Dodge's Store, Ripley. We are 100% employee owned with friendly service and a fun atmosphere. High quality, low prices. We are Food Giant. Our deli serving breakfast, lunch, supper. Food Giant, 702 Highway 15 North, Ripley. Come shop Food Giant. Want fresh meat and fresh produce? Food Giant's the place. High quality, low prices. Food Giant. Now welcome to Ask Dr. Cummins. Please call 587-8176. Ask Dr. Cummins.
Welcome to the Ask Dr. Cummins Show. 587-8176 is the number. Please give us a call with your questions, not too little, not too big. And I tell you, Doctor, I'll tell it again and give a little disclosure. I hit him cold turkey with these questions. We don't sit down before the show. I think that's the best way to do it, and I think you agree with that, don't you, Doc? You just kind of
Yes, I think it makes it spontaneous and
pop test time.
there you go.
Anyway, that's how we work it. So please, 587, write that number down, 8176, and call us and give us your questions. We'll be there. And I think you can call that number 24 hours a day, can't you?
Pretty much can. It should forward either to a voicemail or to a live person.
Okay. Your PA-S, as she called it, your PA-S student we had on last week, we enjoyed talking to her. Now, she'll stay with you 6 weeks, right?
They vary. Some are 4 weeks, some are 5, some are 6. And I think she's going to be with us about 5 weeks.
Okay. And then you also have, and I don't remember the lady's name, she's blonde-headed, but she kind of, let's see, you had a name for her, but I had occasion to come to your office the other day for a little thing I had going on with me, and I couldn't have been treated any nicer. I hadn't told you about that before right now. Just a great operation. I took me right in, asked the questions, and did some tests and got in and got out. I was well pleased with the service I got. I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You didn't ask for that, but I'm telling you.
I think that'd be Miss Robbins that you saw.
I believe so. I
And,
think that's what her name was.
She is our advanced practice nurse, or commonly known as a nurse practitioner. And I've been knowing Miss Robbins for almost 4 years now, and but she has become more intimate and closely related with my clinic over about the last quarter, I guess you'd say, and we think she is a big asset to our practice.
Well, she very, very good delivery, very good manner about her, and I was just thoroughly impressed. So, I mean, and then you've got a male there, Thomas, and is Thomas his name?
Yeah, our respiratory assistant.
Yeah. He's a nice fella. He always kind of gets me in there and
He is.
checks my oxygen level, see if I'm about ready to go out. I think I was one day.
Yeah, he's like I say, we have assembled
I think you got a great
what
staff.
I call an all-star team, and I'm just proud of each and every one of them and glad that they're part of our practice.
Well, I noticed the team effort, and that's a big thing, and you don't feel like you're, of course, you're sick when you go in there, naturally, and nobody, I don't guess, when they go to a doctor's office feels good when they go in there. But the main thing is to feel like you're being listened to and feel like they do care, and your staff does an excellent job. So I just thought I'd
That's
throw
kind of
that
you
in.
to say that, and that's what we're striving toward. And if we're not, we need somebody to pull our ears, and put us back in the right direction.
Well, that's just to tell you what, no way to do it but just to dive in, and we'll get right into it. Got a lot of questions. This came from a woman, and she's been diagnosed as an anemic, and she's been given iron pills that upset her stomach. Well, says she can't afford to go back to the doctor, so that's why she's asking the question, is there anything that she can do if she quits taking the iron pills? Is there anything else she can do? Because she says that the iron pills upset her stomach. And would it be serious? I guess that was her question. Would it be serious? What else could she do besides the iron pills? And would it be serious if she doesn't take the iron pills?
This is a good topic just to talk about anemia in general. There are different kinds of anemia. The one it sounds like she's referring to is iron deficiency anemia, which is particularly common among women, and particularly women that have had children and are getting older. Lose blood, obviously with childbirth, and that contributes to it. The older we get, the proteins that carry iron and store it in our body, if we're not having good nutrition, and sometimes just getting older, it just doesn't work as well as it did in the past, also can cause us to become anemic. And anemic just means that the red blood cells do not have the right amount of hemoglobin, which binds the oxygen in the body, and built up in there. And what that comes, how it makes us feel is we get tired and weak.
But she said that.
Yeah, because you're not getting the oxygen to the places in the body that need it in the amount that it needs. So for her particular case, there are different types of iron supplements.
Well, have you heard of an iron pill, I'll say, but an iron thing like that? Have you heard of that maybe possibly upsetting somebody's stomach?
Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people get constipated by it.
That's a bad feeling too. That's
you
another
almost
story.
always put someone, if you're putting them on full iron deficiency anemia treatment, you almost always put them on a stool softener to keep their BMs regular. Okay?
All right, now a stool softener doesn't necessarily work like a laxative. A stool softener just pretty well softens.
Yeah, it
what
keeps it from
comes out.
being dried out or whatever, if you will, or hard, and makes it where you can go to the bathroom easier and keeps it regular. That's a really nice alternative to a prescription, okay? Because you can just stay regular that way. But anyway, there's iron ascorbate, there's iron sulfate. The most common iron tablets that you get are called iron sulfate. But iron ascorbate, which is iron bound to vitamin C, has actually been proven to be absorbed better by the body. Cost a little bit more money sometimes, depending upon what type of insurance you have or if you're paying out of your pocket.
Well, she made the comment that she really couldn't afford to go back to
So
a
if
doctor.
she told the pharmacist when she went there, I need some cheap iron, I'm gonna guarantee you she got iron sulfate.
Okay.
And if she did, she's gonna need a stool softener for that most likely. Okay? But that nausea, the only thing you can do is you might be able to get a smaller dose of that iron because it comes in different amounts. And then instead of taking it twice a day, taking it 3 or 4 times a day in lower doses.
Okay.
That might prevent her from being so nauseated. Now, that being said, when you have iron deficiency anemia, the question is it because you're just not getting enough iron in your diet? Which you could eat chicken livers, cow liver, and stuff like that. Now, I'm not talking about fried.
Yeah.
But now, that every now and then ain't the end of the world either, but they're rich in iron. So you can get iron in other ways from just your
Such
diet.
as food.
Right.
From your diet, yeah.
And we're okay with that as long as you're keeping up, because you can have too much iron in your food and get hemochromatosis, is what we call bronze diabetes. Person gets real dark complected and looks like they look like George Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
George
I know.
Hamilton?
I remember him.
And or Cary Grant,
Cary
look
Grant,
always dark. Sometimes that's a sign of too much iron.
Too much iron.
Too much iron in the place. But anyway, if it's not from a nutritional defect, or missing that iron in your diet, is that iron deficiency, the next thing that from a doctor's perspective, we're worried about you having a bleed somewhere in your
Okay.
gastrointestinal tract. A lot of times that's the case. So my thing to her, if she does not go to a doctor because she can't afford it, which gets into the argument, can you afford not to go? But if you think you try to hold off like most people do, because
Like I do.
Yeah, well,
last resort,
you know,
go to the doctor.
it, being in the South, most of us are all that Scotch-Irish background, and we're made to be frugal, and we don't spend it unless we think it is appropriate, needs to be done, and we don't like wasting things, especially money. And nobody likes doing that. So I understand that. But if she still finds herself feeling poor, and she's done her nutritional thing, and she's taken her vitamins, and if she's over 50 years old, you're talking about colonoscopy. That's
Oh, yeah,
50-year-old. You're talking about now, if she's got a family history of colon cancer, they're doing that dude at 40 years old. And they're what we call hemocult test, which you do with a little card you can do in the privacy of your home, but they get stool samples, 3 separate, and you check it for blood or heme in it, all right, what we call a heme or hemoglobin positive stool. Now, if that's positive, that's a concern for a bleed. So if you're anemic, it may be from iron, but why are you iron deficient?
Yeah.
That's the next
Yeah,
step.
what caused you being iron deficient?
Because you can supplement, but you still may have a bleed and not know about it. And if you don't fix that bleed, there's your problem.
So in answer to her question, yes, it is kind of serious.
It's serious.
Uh,
And because then, I talk about spectrum of disease all the time, but is that bleed, is that from a hemorrhoid? Not so important. Is it from a tumor? And if
Important.
it's a tumor,
It's very
is it
important.
cancer or not cancer? Because even a non-cancerous tumor can block the tract,
That's right.
make you constipated, have big problems. So yes, it is important, and that's what I'm saying. If she's not, other than me recommending everybody should have an annual checkup, but if you don't get better, you can't afford not to go see a doctor.
Right. So really, ma'am, I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am. From what we gather, it is kind of serious. Try, I guess, Dr. Cummins was telling you, try it with your meals or your diet, and then, but things can happen, so it is serious. So I hope that answered your question. Anything else to add on that, Doc?
No, I think we just beat that dead horse.
Okay.
But I think that's just important information for everybody out there.
Older ladies have calluses and corns. Is it okay to file them off, or should they see a doctor to get rid of them? Now that's another question. That's a softball question.
It's a good question, but you'd say she's got those cows and corns. Maybe her husband ain't working enough. But the other thing is, if she can handle it at home, that's not a problem. But if you're a diabetic and you're trying to handle it at home, you need to make sure you don't go too deep into your healthy tissue, because you can cause problems, because diabetics have nerve damage and they can't feel pain as quick as somebody that's a non-diabetic. And then there's other people, and I see patients in the clinic with these problems who they've tried over-the-counter stuff or and they're just not getting anywhere and maybe causing more harm.
Well, I had this person went on to say that when she did, she had it on a big toe, and the callus was, profusely, you could tell it was she got it filed down all the way to where it was, but looked like just a little old seed was sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah.
What's that? Does that have to come out?
Now, sometimes these things can come from what we call verruca plana, or a seed wart.
Okay.
Can cause those problems. Now, if you got that wart, that's a different treatment.
Okay.
And but usually
Well,
you
yeah,
destroy
it was
that.
it was a little, and it was hard.
Right.
Just right dead center.
And then again, it could just be real hard built up tissue from. A lot of times you get those calluses or blisters from improper fitting of shoes.
Okay.
Ladies get
Well, that
them more
makes sense.
often than men because they wear different types of shoes.
Well, we won't go into women's shoes. we
But,
all know about
that's-
those stories.
That's Pandora's box. But anyway, because of fashion and stuff, their feet get some trauma.
right.
And if you continue to do trauma on that area, your body's trying to defend itself from it, and it puts up that dead tissue
Right.
to defend itself.
That
But then it
makes
ends up
sense.
hurting. How do you treat those things as a doctor? You can shave parts of them off with a broad blade, which I've done and do. You can use almost, and I hate to say this because I don't want anybody to try this at home, but it's something that's almost like a Dremel tool
Yeah.
to sand
I
it
know what
down.
Yeah, sand
But
it
please don't do that at home. And don't say Dr. Cummins said do that. But as a certain type of medical equipment, you can sand it down that way. And then there's creams and salves
Well,
that
there's something
kind of
called
eat away.
I've had a corn and I've used Compound W before, and that worked.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff that we have is just.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Compound W?
It's just what we have is just kind of a higher percent concentration than what you can get over the counter, because the experts, and we can argue about who the experts are,
Yeah.
but have deemed it at a certain point it's not safe for over the counter use because somebody could hurt themselves.
Right.
So we often can use things at a higher percent with medical supervision, and gain some ground for you and treat you.
Okay, young lady, I hope that answered your question. And I tell you what, we've reached our halfway point. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after we hear from our sponsors.
Magnolia State Family Medicine, Health Center and Medical Spa, 1009B City Avenue North, Ripley, 587-8176. Call for your appointment. Providing modern medicine with Southern hospitality. That's Magnolia State Family Medicine, 100% veteran-owned and operated. Bethel University Physician Assistant Program affiliated. Magnolia State Family Medicine. Dr. Christopher J. M. Cummins, Medical Doctor. Fast, hot, and fresh. Open 24 hours just for you. Dodge's Store. Come be our guest. Dodge's Store, Ripley. We are 100% employee owned with friendly service and a fun atmosphere. High quality, low prices. We are Food Giant. Our deli serving breakfast, lunch, supper. Food Giant, 702 Highway 15 North, Ripley. Come shop Food Giant. Want fresh meat and fresh produce? Food Giant's the place. High quality, low prices. Food Giant. Now, welcome to Ask Dr. Cummins. Please call 587-8176. Ask Dr. Cummins.
Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Cummins Show. Once again, the phone number is 587-8176. Please give us a call with your questions, and we'll try to get you some answers. Well, go ahead. You said you might have something in March you want to
Yeah, I was just going to mention
real quick.
several March health-related events that are going on or are being recognized in March. And the first one is American Red Cross Month.
Yeah,
So
everybody's familiar with that.
American Red Cross. And funny that we were mentioning about anemia, but it's National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Mental telepathy.
Yep. So speak of that, so that's the concern for colon cancer. And then secondary related to that is National Nutrition Month.
Mm-hmm.
So maintaining good nutrition, especially as we get older. So you got several.
Well, we hit in that one question. We hit the month of March, didn't we?
We did.
The diet.
We did.
We did. All right. Let's see. One of the main things that older people have to ask is that should medicine that's taken once a day be taken in the morning or at night? Which is better? Is it better one way or the other?
Well, there's certain medicine that is better to take in the morning, certain medicine that is better to take at night. For the most part, first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Usually after breakfast. However, they're like a lot of the cholesterol medicines, cholesterol lowering medications, particularly the drugs that end in statin and the generic name STATIN. Most of the time, the recommendation is take those medications at nighttime. There's really nothing directly wrong with taking them in the morning, but because people have reported some muscle aches or cramps that go along with those medicines, they take them at night so you're asleep when you would have it, so you don't even realize that you're having them. But for the most part, the statin or those cholesterol lowering drugs, everybody blames every ache that they've ever had on that drug, and it's usually, some studies show that it's usually not that medicine. But so there's certain ones, Coumadin, blood thinner,
Ooh,
rat poison.
Rat poison. That's a bad
It's
drug.
typically given people like, best case recommendation is to give it about 5 o'clock every day.
In the afternoon?
That because Coumadin can interact with so many different kind of foods that we take in. So they say take it a couple hours before you eat and a couple of hours after you have eaten. And that's usually the best time they found to give it. And oftentimes in nursing homes and places like that, or institutional settings, they found that's the best time to give it.
Well, you know, I thought that was a silly question, but that turns out not to be a silly question.
No.
That's something that when you get your prescriptions after you've seen the doc and he's been in there and the nurse comes in there and gives you your prescriptions, you know, that's kind of the routine. They come in there, clean it up and give you prescriptions. I guess you need to stop and ask, when's the best time to take this medicine?
And usually if it's nuanced like those medicines, they're going to tell you. But again, you know, I know you've heard me say.
I've never heard anybody tell me when I've gotten a prescription when to take it.
Right. Well, a lot of times too, if it's nuanced, they should say something. But if they don't, you know, you got to take care of yourself.
Right.
So do ask that question, and nobody should mind you asking that question. And I think what the providers do nowadays a lot of times is, because when you go to the pharmacist, you get all that printout of all that stuff,
Right.
which most people don't read. I think the providers have fallen into thinking that people do read that stuff, and it's going to tell them all that information. But I would think that if it's nuanced, it would fall on us to tell you, instead of they've done some legal precedent that, you know, just because you sign something doesn't necessarily mean a lot. You need to be also told it.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah. Well, so that ended up what I thought to be a silly question. That's a good question.
that's a good question.
That goes to show small questions are just as good as large questions.
That's it.
All right, here's another question, and this person had this occasion arise. We're just sitting around in a room with people, and all of a sudden somebody faints and just falls out in the middle of the floor. Should you immediately call an ambulance, or should you wait and try to revive the person? Let's say you don't know anything about why they fainted. What would be your suggestion on how to handle that situation?
Yeah, in like basic life support or CPR classes, when they teach life saving, that somebody falls down, the first thing you're going to do, or somebody is going to do, is kind of go over to them and say, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay?" And then everything else, how that
Reaction from that.
algorithm that we have, or that pathway that we're going to follow, will be based upon what they do. If they respond to you, odds are you're not going to activate EMS. But now, if they're choking, or they're not getting air, they're turning blue, you're going to activate EMS. When I say EMS, emergency medical system.
Call an
ambulance.
Yeah.
That's it. 911. But the first thing you do, you're going to assess them, and the thing that they train you is buddy, or you okay, or hey buddy, or
Yeah.
something like that.
See if you can get their attention and get some
Right.
reasonable thought
Yeah, because
process.
sometimes people like a prolonged standing or something, their knees may lock and they may just go down.
Yeah.
And I remember a girl did that when we were in one of our Christmas plays when I was in the 4th grade. That was the weirdest thing. Everybody's just sitting there, and then she just went out. And then she got up and she was fine. You know, she just stood locked in the same position too long. And so that can happen, and that's not a big deal.
Well, when it happened to me, the guy was having a seizure. He was an epileptic, and he fell on the floor and stood still for about 15 seconds, and then all of a sudden he went into one of those. And
Now,
I
if
was
it's
only 12 when that happened. That scared the
Yeah,
heck out of
yeah, I
me.
bet. And now, if it's a first-time seizure, most time people are going to activate the ambulance. If it's somebody that has known epilepsy, it will depend. And like you can go into what we call status epilepticus, which is like a very prolonged seizure. They're going to need to get to a doctor.
Well, I remember on an earlier show you made the comment that if it's one of those physical type things, you better stay away because they can hurt you.
Right. And you have
And
to really
I
be
think I
careful.
remember
You
that.
don't want to try to constrain them.
Right,
And
because they can hurt you.
and you can hurt them too by breaking their bones and
Yeah.
stuff from them fidgeting and moving around so much. But so it would depend. And but sometimes, like say if somebody does have epilepsy, you can look, and a lot of times they'll have that identifier on them. But say if they didn't, but they're he does this every week or once a month, and somebody that's got some experience knowing how to deal with an epileptic, you may not have to activate the
Right.
ambulance. But if it doesn't stop, you are, because they may end up requiring to be intubated.
I guess it's just a judgment call. If it looks serious, it's better to be safe than
So,
sorry.
that's why EMS is there. So if you have a doubt, or if you even have a thought that you should, just
Do
go
it.
ahead and do it.
Especially with cell phones, it's a lot more convenient
man,
now.
too
All these
easy.
shows, somebody call an ambulance for these cell phones, just hit 911 and go with it.
That's it. Just go. Don't waste
All
time.
right, here's can an extreme case or an extreme bad case of reflux cause breathing problems?
Yes, it can. Maybe not what they may not be thinking about, but if you have bad reflux and you're putting stomach or gastric contents up your esophagus up to the point where it can go back down into your airway where you breathe, and you put food contents in there, that can lead to pneumonia. And that's what we call aspiration pneumonia. So that kind of reflux, yes, it can cause that kind of problem.
Well, run that by me again.
Yeah, it's
In other words, something could actually come up because of the reflux. Like, let's say you're drinking a Coke and eating a cracker,
right.
and it goes down. You feel it go down, and you feel your reflux popping it back up. That can go down and cause pneumonia.
If it were to go high enough and get into your trachea,
Yeah.
or past your larynx and all that goes down in, it can get into your lungs. If you get food contents or drink or even gastric mucus or just different things, if you get enough of it and your body can't handle that, you can end up with pneumonia.
Well, how do your lungs shed that? I mean, how does your body overcome
Well-
food particles or something getting into your lungs?
Well, we have cells in our body that go out and eat away stuff when it's like not where it's supposed to be.
kind of like a garbage disposal or,
Right,
or a
right.
piranha fish,
Mhm.
and
It takes care of that stuff for
it
us.
probably takes a good length of time to
But
do
if
that.
you overwhelm it, that's why sometimes people in them chest X-rays, you'll hear the term granuloma.
Right, I've heard that term.
And some people have granulomatous disease, but some of that can be like an old wound, and your body built a protection around it of something it couldn't break down,
Well, I'll be damned.
and that's why you have.
I have
those
learned
particles.
something new on this show every week, and I'm going to tell you what, folks, if you ain't watching it, you need to tell friends to watch it because these are just common everyday conversations without all the big words. Doc, Tony came out and said it was time to go. Anything you'd like to add before we get off?
No, not the offhand. Just remembering those days, and I guess the big take home from this show is, consider getting that colon screen.
That's right.
50 years old for everyone.
Never
But
too
if you got a
late.
family history, it's 40 years old. And I just hope everybody has a great week.
All right, we'll see you next week, same time, same station, 6:30 on a Thursday night. Appreciate you watching us tonight, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Magnolia State Family Medicine, Health Center and Medical Spa, 1009B City Avenue North, Ripley, 587-8176. Call for your appointment. providing modern medicine with Southern hospitality. That's Magnolia State Family Medicine, 100% veteran-owned and operated. Bethel University Physician Assistant Program affiliated. Magnolia State Family Medicine. Dr. Christopher J. M. Cummins, Medical Doctor.